Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Alexis Jackson, and I work for Family Base at Work, the most phenomenal national network of grassroots partners with a presence in 27 states. Excuse me, sorry about that. With a presence in 27 states and counting. Our network is doing the work to win for families. We're doing the work to win at the ballot, win in legislation, win by building power, and win by changing the way our culture responds to and values the contributions of working caregivers of color. Personally, I work for Family Values at Work because having the right to take time to care and being able to afford that right is so critical. I've experienced so many of the challenges that we fight to overcome in this work. I've been the single working mom who couldn't afford to take a sick day for myself or my child. I've been the pregnant mom with COVID, and I've been the mom with postpartum preeclampsia. And even beyond being a parent, I've been a caregiver for so many people in my family, whether they're family by blood or by choice. So I get it when we say that caregivers deserve better, and I believe we're all caregivers in some way. I also get it that it's important to pay attention to what lawmakers say. The State of the Union is an important benchmark where the president signals his priorities and his commitments to them. We heard a lot in the president's address tonight and in the party's responses that followed, excuse me, including things like affordable childcare, paid leave, and the Fair Wage Act, however briefly those comments may have been. But tonight, to break it all the way down, we have an amazing lineup of folks who will share what they heard and exactly what they think about it. So Quentin, Namati, Yadira, and Shannon, please take it away.
Hi, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, everyone.
Well, I guess I'll take the liberty and start with introducing myself. Maybe we can all. Well, actually, please let me defer to our lady pundits that are on with us. Could one of you please start us off?
Yes, of course, I can go ahead and start. My name is Namati Mansaray. I am Senior Director of Workplace Justice, focusing on paid leave, and I'm with Moms Rising. Moms Rising is an organization of over 1 million members, and we continue to grow in numbers. We really focus on pressing issues that are facing women, mothers, families, and we're working to increase family economic security, to end discrimination against women and mothers, and to build a nation where businesses and families can thrive.
Hi, everyone. Yadira Sanchez, Executive Director for Poder Latinx. We are a civic and social justice organization taking on an innovative, comprehensive approach, integrating community organizing, leadership development into our civic engagement work. We do year-round engagement, connecting our community to our issues, and paid leave, economic justice being one of our top issues that we do year-round organizing around. And we target low, non-voters, but low to mid propensity voters. We'll be doing a lot of work in this upcoming midterm elections, based in Arizona, Florida, and Georgia. And I'll turn it over to you. Back to you.
Cool. I'm Quentin Savoy. I'm the Deputy Director at Make It Work Nevada in Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada. We're a statewide organization that organizes Black women and Black families around economic justice, environmental justice, racial justice, and reproductive justice. The issues that we work on include housing justice, affordable child care, access to health care, equal pay for equal work, paid family leave, of course. And I'm really glad to join some really brilliant minds tonight doing some awesome work.
And I'm Shannon, and thank you for calling it a brilliant mind. I appreciate that. I'm the author of the Ultimate Stay-at-Home Dad Manual. a book that tells dads how to be the caregiver, and that's who basically I'm representing myself today. I have no official organization, but I think from my standpoint here, there's good things that I heard and bad things that I heard, and I'm not really sure which way to kick it off. As a stay-at-home dad that tells awkward jokes at awkward moments, the satire writer in me is just writing lists down, but this has a real effect on people, and I'm not really sure where to start. Who wants to go first?
Well, I think we can go ahead and start with caregivers. You're a dad, you're a caregiver. I think caregiving affects many people. I was also a caregiver for a short time for my father, along with my two sisters. We were thrust into that world. And I think, a lot of what the president was saying, he was very optimistic and very looking forward, to what we still have left to do. And I noted that he mentioned paid leave, but it was like a snippet. Yeah. And I think, having paid leave, especially for caregiving families, is something that's really vital and really critical. And I'm sure you can speak more to that because,
Well, I agree. And when he brought up the cost of childcare, that was one I really jumped on. You'll find it with a lot of stay-at-home dads. That was one of the definitive decisions about whether we were going to stay home or not. When he mentioned the term $14,000 for one child, that's cheap. There's a part of me that was like, wow, okay, that's way cheaper than places I've heard. I mean, New York and other places, just insane. And I would like to see some actual action on that, and I know I take this from a dad's standpoint as a stay-at-home dad, but after a year of virtual schooling and what I saw all parents going through, it is absolutely essential that we get some sort of affordable childcare because it's important. And I don't understand how working parents do it and just not break. I saw it online every day. I wanted to see more of that.
I think what was. Oh, I'm sorry, Yadira. Please go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just agreeing. I was saying they are in fact breaking. Women are leaving the workforce because they have to make these choices between, putting food on the table and providing for their loved ones. So we're at a breaking point. We've been at a breaking point. Go ahead, Quentin. Sorry to cut you off.
No, I was just going to add, the president spoke to, how many jobs were added and how it was so historical. But all I kept thinking is, where's the child care, Joe? How do we expect to rebuild a world-class economy, number one in the world, if we don't have anywhere for families to take their children when they go to work? We've really missed the mark for decades. It's the greatest public policy failure of our lifetime to not understand how integral a strong economy is with quality, affordable childcare. So I was heartened to hear him mention it because we have fought for decades just to get our federal elected leaders to understand how essential childcare is. But goodness, as it relates to the paid family leave part, if you would have blinked, you would have missed it because it was literally just a blurb. To take us back a little bit, I had the privilege of being able to care for my grandmother who's 90. And I'm in an organization that walks it like they talk it. So I had a little paid family leave where I could take the time away and care for my 90-year-old grandmother. It's not the care so much as in cooking for her every single day, but being able to handle her business for her, calling the banks, calling all of her different things to handle her business. Because at 90, you're not as mentally with it as you are typically able to. And as I'm enjoying being able to do that for her, all I'm thinking about is there's someone that doesn't have this privilege to be able to take time off from work and solely dedicate their focus on taking care of an aging grandparent, because it really is a full-time job. I wish that the president would have given more depth to that. I think that there is a way. Storytelling is a masterful way to go about a State of the Union speech, because in as much as he was trying to strike what sounded like a middle of the road chord, I feel like he could have told the story, countless care stories that this network and other associated networks have been able to highlight to appeal to Americans to say, this is what we need, and call your congressperson now. The organizer in me can't understand why there was no real call to action for Americans to say, call your senator, call your legislator and say, we need this. But I digress.
I definitely piggybacking on that, Quentin. I was going to say the same thing. I was glad that paid leave and childcare was not completely forgotten and left out of the speech. It was covered very lightly. To be honest, it should have been a top priority and an issue that would have been more heavily focused given the pandemic, given that so many women have been forced to leave the workforce to take care of children, take care of loved ones, take care of themselves during the pandemic, and they haven't been really able to come back. And not because they don't want to, is because childcare is not reliable. It's not reliable right now. As we are opening up operations to do our canvassing, we're seeing more and more women that are having a hard time having childcare available to them, especially if there's a COVID outbreak now with children that they're seeing. It really shuts down the whole daycare. What are these parents, what do these working families do in a time like this? So childcare is not just like any other issue. In my opinion, it should have been dealt with more severity and really called on bipartisan support, because this is definitely something that we did not pass. We could have received some Republican support for this, knowing that this also pulls, it's not a partisan issue. It's really impacting working families and families that don't have luxury to be able to stay at home, right? Like some of us here, like we've seen, and I agree with you, Quentin, that we needed more stories. Like my family also didn't have access to paid leave. And we experienced this with my mother when my stepfather had to choose a paycheck or be there for a loved one during a very difficult operation and very critical to somebody's recovery. And it's a choice that we cannot have. We really need to tackle this from face, and we really need the administration not only to mention it, but really to act upon it and not to let take their gas off the pedal. We need the White House to fully charge this issue.
I think before I was a stay-at-home dad and a writer, I actually investigated elder care abuse. That was actually my job. So thousands of cases, and 75% of those cases were self-neglect. Elderly people that couldn't take care of themselves and didn't have anyone there that could take care of them. And one of our biggest problems that we ran into is they might have family, but family couldn't take off work for an hour a day, because you take off work, you don't get paid, you don't pay the electricity bill. Now, this was down in Texas. That electricity bill in the summer, $300, $400, $500, right? Like that's a big deal. And so they would call me in to investigate self-neglect there because they just can't take care of themselves. So the question is, what do you do? And what I didn't see tonight that I wanted to see tonight was a more plan of action. I agree with you. The call to action. What are we going to do to lower childcare costs? Because even during virtual school, what broke my heart the most is I would be sitting in the class with second graders, right? And one of them would need help. And they're like, "Where's your mom?" And she's like, "Well, she's sleeping. She has to work at night." And that breaks your heart that they can't juggle that, because it's just the system is not here and not made for that. And it's the same with elder care. And those are things I want to see a stronger push toward those things, because until we do, I think we're just going to be floundering.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, caregiving is really weaved throughout all of these issues. I mean, people are living longer, which means that they may need more care and medical assistance as they age. The bulk of caregiving is provided by women. So it's really essential that that caregivers receive the support that they need. And they may not ever get the right amount of support, but it takes a toll, the emotional, physical, mental, financial impact. Something like paid leave would mean millions of unpaid family caregivers. And I think the number is 53 million right now, adults who are taking care of a child or an adult or someone with a disability. Just having that buffer, right? That support means that they can remain in the workforce and keep those much needed jobs. And the president was talking about the economy and building back jobs. I think this is one way that we can reach that goal.
Well, the question I have, I love the idea and I would love to see it happen, because I think it would be financially smarter in the long run. Nursing homes are incredibly expensive, and almost all that go are going to be on government assistance when they go. And no senior wants to find themselves in a nursing home. I did everything in my power to keep them in home as long as I could. If we could have a way for paid family leave where we could offset that cost and keep them in the house, that's actually the better solution. And I would like to see that happen.
He did also mention I think long-term care or home and community-based services. So that's
Yeah.
another. And I wish he would have, again, spent a little more time, shared a little more, of his stories, talking about that, because it's really impacting families across the nation.
Yeah, so often the narrative gets corrupted when talking about these issues. They become politicized. And like Yadira said, a lot of these are not partisan issues. And Make It Work Nevada is a nonpartisan organization. I would love if I could have a serious policy conversation with a Republican to talk about how we achieve paid family leave or achieve quality, affordable childcare, because everyone should be concerned about these issues. It's not just Democrats having kids. It's not just, you see what I'm saying? These are things that we have to be concerned with as people. And the more we continue to allow these everyday issues to divide us, I think that's really what sends our democracy in a spiral. If I could pivot us just a little bit, I was honestly really disappointed with just the kind of blasé mentioning of the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, the Transparency Act, the For the People Act. The president really could have dug deep there. And tomorrow, I'm just thinking about what I'm going to have to say to community members tomorrow when they ask me, well, Q, what was the State of the Union about? I'm just going to have to figure out how to prioritize the things that I didn't feel like the president prioritized tonight. Principally among them is voting. That should have been how we started and ended, by talking about the State of the Union is strong but vulnerable, because people attacked this building a year ago. And I still see images of folks in my head scaling the Capitol, understanding that all of this could have been taken away just like that. And he acted like it didn't even happen. So it's discouraging, but further than discouraging, it's upsetting, because we are still up against the same threat. Secretary of State offices and all of these, I call them J6ers, are pursuing elected office all across this country to delegitimize one person, one vote, to delegitimize having access to the ballot. I really felt like that was an opportunity that the president could have honed in on a little bit more. I'm not sure what the calculus was there in not talking about that more.
Completely agree with you. I myself thought this was a great opportunity as well to energize folks for the midterm elections, making it also very vocal, loud and clear who stood in the way of passing Build Back Better Act, and not really to put only focus on like those moderate Dems, but let's be honest, what Republicans supported it. It's not all the attention is on the Dems. They had the opportunity to vote on it, to move on this just as much as the Democratic Party, and they chose not to take action and to take public corporate interests over working families, over the benefits that could have really helped and provide so much relief for many families that were impacted during the pandemic. And I also expected and hoped for more mention of immigrant essential work families, because they're the ones that have kept this country, our economy running. And they are always left out of the conversations when it comes to these benefits. We talk about paid leave. These benefits, even if passed at the federal level, we have to continue pushing to making sure immigrant families, essential workers are included into these legislation. Otherwise, we're not really covering all folks in our democracy, impacting children who are American born and are mixed status homes. So it's very, like, for me, I wanted more. I wanted to make sure this was the time and space to make sure that the American people knew what could have been. It was at a reach, it was at a grasp, but who stood in the way, who did not help us accomplish and in a way block all these great benefits and prosperity that so many American families could have had.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it was? I wanted more, right? Like I wanted like some more meat from the speech. I felt like it was lacking in a sense. It had the sides and the vegetables and whatnot, but it didn't have like that protein, right? And I felt like he kept talking about a unity agenda, and I think he didn't want to delve too deep, right, into the issues that really matter. And it was kind of like a checklist rather. He mentioned women's rights. He mentioned immigration. He mentioned paid leave. He mentioned LGBTQ, right? But he didn't really go in deep, like in depth, like we wanted to. We wanted to hear the solutions. We wanted to hear what he, his plans for the future, how we're going to move forward, how we're going to get these bill signs. Like that's what I wanted to hear more of.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump in as the mediocre white guy here, as the joke goes, because I would have bet that y'all's experience is so much different than mine. I'm a middle-aged white guy in the suburbs that drives a minivan, right? My experience has been so much different from yours. And from when I watched it, I agree. I thought it was a checklist that didn't go into these issues because I see them through the view of a parent, right? I have teenagers now, and our kids are aware of systemic racism. And when voting rights get taken away, or January 6th, they are aware, and it causes them stress. And my daughter and my sons, they ask me why. And I know the historical answer. I don't have the personal experience answer, but I have to explain it to them in a way that makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. And I agree with you. There was no meat to that. You can't disregard this huge issue that has been there forever and now is flooded on social media and just not discuss it because I don't know why. I agree with you. I think it should have been more because I think for me, my kids see it. They experience it in their schools. They've had walkouts at my daughter's high school about this kind of thing. And I think that was a missed opportunity. I think it was a little bit more pandering than I wanted to see. And again, I say that as your mediocre white guy that joined in the group that writes humor.
I'm reminded of something that Yvette Simpson says. I believe I won't quote her title, but she's a brilliant mind, organizer, former mayoral candidate, I believe, out of Cincinnati, Ohio. But she's also a commentator on ABC. And election night last year, they asked her a question, and she says, well, unity is great, but freedom is better. And this gets to that towing of the middle, that getting back to the center, Joe Biden, that I feel like that speech was. Yeah, okay, great. We want to strike a chord and be harmonious. Absolutely. But there are, and this is the point that Yvette Simpson makes, there are folks that are hurting. There are folks that have been hurting. There are folks that compromise and bipartisanship and unity have cost them. It's cost them their health care. It's cost them a livable wage. It's cost them stable housing. It's cost them for decades. So at what point are we going to be concerned about the whole of everyone instead of just pandering to the couple folks that are actually deciding elections each year? I said at the top of this year, I don't want to do anything if I'm not changing lives. All the political theater, the standing up and down, the clapping, that's all great if people weren't dying. People are dying. And if I'm not able to help change lives, I don't want to be a part of it. And a lot of that felt like, yeah, I know y'all hurting. I'm working on it. And I'm just not with that.
No, that's exactly what it was. It was like, yeah, y'all have some mental health issues and we're going to handle it, X, Y, and Z. But I really just wanted to hear more. And I wanted to feel like I was understood and my issues were being heard. And there was something coming down the pipeline that I could, look towards. And I didn't really, I didn't feel that.
Mm-hmm. Let me pose this question. It's a little off script, but let's try it. The folks that you work with, that you share in this space of finding justice care, what did they need to hear tonight? And did you feel like the president said those things? I know we've talked largely about the different things, but do you feel like tomorrow when you have conversations with the folks you work alongside, or maybe even your colleagues, do you feel like they heard what we heard? Sorry, didn't mean
Who are you talking to?
Whoever wants to talk.
Stay-at-home dad. I have no colleagues. No, I do.
Quentin, I assume this were directed to me and Namari.
Sure.
I was just gonna say, like, I think everybody probably could relate with my colleagues that we wanted to hear more. We definitely needed more energy, more action. The hope is there. I definitely don't want to also rain on the agenda and the work the administration has done, because they have set forth a very bold and ambitious agenda, and it's very clear that we need Congress in order to move it forward. The president and the administration cannot do it alone, and it's definitely, I just wanted more energy and more action in the way of, this is why elections matter. This is why we have to go out and participate in the midterm elections that are around the corner. And this is why we need to elect elected officials that actually care about all these issues, because the agenda is there, want to move it forward. That is something that was missing, the connect with what is at stake. Because if the administration, we go backwards, if we change, and we're not able to pass anything in the next 2 years, then we won't be able to see progress, and we also won't be able to impact the lives. Like you said, we're here to change lives. We're here to see change in our communities. It wasn't connected, like how we're going to see that change. Why do we need to come out and vote? Why we need to elect folks that are champions that are going to be fighting for those issues and for the communities we represent? That part was missing. So definitely, I feel my colleagues would be like the speech was good. It could have been great, and it could have been more energizing and optimistic.
Yeah, I agree. At Moms Rising, we have a number of campaigns. We cover youth and family justice, maternal health, maternal justice, early care and education, things of that nature. And of course, paid family medical leave, gun safety, healthcare, immigration, just, it runs the gambit. And so they would be, and they were, happy that those things were mentioned, or at least in some part. But again, we were missing, and I think Quentin and Shannon, you both mentioned it earlier, a call to action. Like what next? What are we going to do? How are we going to push this forward? How are we going to pass this agenda? If it's not the Build Back Better agenda, what is it that has these components, these policy priorities that will help families, help put money back in their pockets, help get them back into the workplace, make sure, gender equity is addressed, racial equity is addressed. Like, what is the call to action? What can we do? Who do we need to call? Is it our senator? Is it our representative? Is it the president? Like, what can we do? And I think that's something that was missing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think I'm going to call the president now. I think that's a great suggestion right there. I like that.
We just beat him in on the chat here.
Why not?
You know what? I got a number. I know a guy. He's someone's dad over there somewhere. For the parent side point, not to speak for all parents, so don't send me hate mail, but when he talked about inflation, that's a real thing that affects all of us. Inflation and cost, and you said it yourself, how to bring more money back into parents' pockets so they can actually do more with their kids or just care for them, and that's what's going to be talked about tomorrow. Every parent who goes to the grocery store knows exactly how much a gallon of milk costs. And I know that it's going up, and a dozen eggs. And then that brings me to other things like education, how much it costs to send your kids to trade school or college. And he mentioned that a little bit, but I didn't hear anything about student loans. And those are things that as a parent bother me that I want to see action on. If education gets you free, why don't we make that easier? Because what you're saying is that raising kids is a luxury, educating them is a luxury, and that's not right. That should be something we do as a country because it produces a better citizenship and a better country. Whatever that education takes, if you want to go to trade school, great. Let's find a way to pay for it and not saddle you with debt for the next 50 years. And as a parent, that's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow.
Yeah. Shannon, you hit the nail on the head. It just made me think about how does it translate to American families? Because who is watching this? We're watching this, of course, right? We're in the space. This is what we do, it's our bread and butter. So we enjoy watching these things and figuring out what's happening. But maybe the average person, right, is not, because they have to get up to, to go to work in the morning, and they have childcare. They have all these other things to do. So like, how is what he said, the president said, and his unity agenda, how is that translating to just everyday folks?
Mm-hmm.
I hope it comes through in some of the things he said, like lowering prescription drug costs. I got really excited. I really liked that when we got into healthcare and things like that, because that is so prohibitive for every family of every background. I mean, all of us here know someone who doesn't go to the doctor because they can't afford it. I've seen stay-at-home dads that were like, no, I'm going to not go to the doctor for a while because my kid needs something. I hope that is a way, because that is certainly it's a tax. Call it whatever you want, but it is a tax. And that makes life difficult for parents right now, especially in the healthcare system that we have, because you don't know if your bill is going to be $10 or $10,000. And that's just true. Mm-hmm. And if you're working a 9-to-5 job or you're working, minimum wage, a bill like that could kill you. It could just totally end you up on the street. And those are concerning to me. And I want to see real action. So I was excited that we got to talk about it and that he seemed to have a plan for it. I'm hoping that there's follow through from Congress. But that's where my kind of optimism kind of gets shot down.
And I'm not sure that all the tools are being used to best leverage Congress. Like, I know the president wouldn't get up and directly call out a Senator Sinema or a Senator Manchin, but I feel like you can reference data from how these policies that are a part of his agenda could economically enhance a state like Kentucky, could economically enhance a state like Iowa, could economically enhance Arizona, West Virginia, and so on. So it's those type of opportunities that I'm like, well, I surely can't be the only person thinking that that should probably be in the speech in a way that's indirect to try to cajole people to say, you know what? No, the president said that if you pass this, then you're going to save this number of lives, right? I just don't know why we're not framing it in the way of people's lives and livelihood, because that's what's at stake. And part of the problem is I feel like we take those things too casually. People are dying. People are living in their cars. People are trying to figure out how the hell they're going to manage in this new normal that we are trying to develop. Further, and this will be the last thing I say on this for a minute, when he said, I'm sending y'all more tests and I'm going to pay Pfizer to give pills for everybody. Don't talk to me about how Medicare for all is not possible. It's about intention, America. It's about intention.
It is. You know, my question for you guys, and maybe you guys have a better kind of view of it, can we overcome that gulf between, though? I mean, that's what it is. Because I see a lot of conspiracy theories that gain way too much traction, that become part of the mainstream talking point. Call it what it is, man. I hope we can bridge that gap. Do you think we can? I like how we all just took a deep breath. You know, I
think the optimist in us says yes, because we have to say yes, right? Otherwise, what else is there? Like, what are we even fighting for if there's no hope, right? That we're going to get these things passed, that we're going to get paid leave, that we're going to get affordable and quality childcare, that we're going to get debt relief from student loans. Like, we need to have this hope that these two sides will come together, or rather certain individuals from certain sides, right, will come to the light, if you will, and understand that, like Quentin said, people are struggling. People are dying every day. You know, 90% of the lowest wage workers have no access to paid family medical leave. And those are majority Black and brown individuals, right? So just putting it into that context, and I agree with you, Quentin, like call people out. Let them know this is what's happening in your state. These are the voters. They're struggling. They need childcare. They need to be in the workforce. We need to get back to this sense of normalcy, rather.
Yeah.
And this is definitely, like I mentioned before, an opportunity to empower and energize that base of folks that needed this support, especially now. He touched upon the economy and he mentioned jobs, which is obviously very great. And he mentioned BIF, which I think there's one of like those wins that are not really getting a lot of attraction because it's infrastructure and not touching like right away something that our community can see, that our people can see like a difference right immediately, and it's going to take a while to implement, but definitely needed more uplifting, because you all, somebody mentioned it earlier, we all were out there, paying attention to pay leave, paying attention to the issues that we're working on, that we know our members care about, our communities that we're impacted by. The normal American person is probably this is me hearing what the president did, their accomplishments, and what they're hoping to accomplish the next 2 years. And it definitely was a missed opportunity of really also showcasing like the great work and connecting it to data, like people's lives. This is how this person, small business owner was able to save their small business. This is how the type of aid that was shared and that did reach the everyday person, like that wasn't really amplified for us to see like these, the president and the administration has done something these 2 years that have really changed people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to face that problem in the midterm elections because we have a lot of work ahead of us.
Yes, we do.
So my last question to you guys, because I apparently love to talk a lot. You guys are all organizers. You guys are all fighting a good fight. And believe it or not, stay-at-home dads are organized in a weird way. So shout out to City Dads groups and all my people. But what can we do? What can the common person do to make these things that we heard tonight, the things that I liked, what can we do to make those a reality? What is the action we can take? Can we add a call to action to the State of the Union?
Ooh, that's a good question. What can we do next? I'll share with you what I'll share with the families and the women that we work alongside. So tomorrow, when folks start asking, well, what was that all about? I'm going to remind our community members that we consent to be governed. Joe Biden has power because we as people said, hey, we trust you to steer the ship right now. In Nevada, we trust Governor Sisolak because we voted for you. The power rests with us. So if we want to see something different, then we have to not just take action, but be invested in the action that we're taking. Don't just go to a city council meeting. Take 3 friends with you to the city council meeting. Talk to your neighbors. We don't talk to each other anymore. So much of our deterioration as a country, I feel like, is just because we're not familiar with one another. We don't know how to talk to one another if it's not in DMs or social media in some capacity. So the first thing folks can do is just start talking to their neighbors again and understand that we have the power to shape what our communities look like at every single level of government. Now, our systems, unfortunately, when you go federal, it takes a little bit longer to get there, which is why I'm more interested in, if you want your trash picked up on Thursday and right now it's picked up on Sunday, we can organize and fix that, right? That feels like a tangible win. But we have power over all of those things. It just starts with being more familiar with one another and being invested in the process of nurturing our democracy and nurturing the systems that govern our day-to-day lives. That's what I would suggest.
Yeah, those are good suggestions, and I would agree with all of those. And one of the last things the president said during his speech was that the State of the Union is strong because the American people is strong. So we've always been strong, right? We've always been active participants in the democracy, right? We organize in person. We call our senators. We take action. I think we have to continue to do that. Learn more about the issues that you don't know about or that affect you, and then also know that you're not alone. So you may think that you're in this like silo, right, of caregiving or of childcare or paid leave or whatever the issue may be, but the person next to you could also be going through that same issue, that same thing. So I think it's best to, make sure, understand that you're not alone, take action with people. The louder we are, the stronger we are, and continue to fight the good fight.
Definitely second everything was said already. I would say that in this, COVID era or this time frame, we have resort to technology to be a big amplifier of what, call to action. And I feel everyone has a platform, regardless you have a tiny following or not, you're still in a way influencing and reaching a different audience, and your audience might be different than our audience. So definitely take advantage of that platform. You as an author and your perspective as a father, I think definitely will reach and will tell the story and grab somebody differently than one of us speaking. And the same thing goes with our constituency. I think hearing it from other folks just really validates and supports already the message out there that we need this federal legislation for all families, for all American families, for all working families, and in how we are stronger if our families are strong and the people is strong.
I love that, all families, because that's really, the stay-at-home dad world is made up of everyone, every background, every religion, everything. And we're actually quite accepting and open and organized. And, we advocate for paid leave, obviously, and specifically paternity leave. It's not taken and not offered for fathers that much. But I think the way you guys put it kind of gives us a little bit more motivation, at least a little more direction. And apparently we need to go to family values at work. I saw the little tag pop up there. And that's all I got.
Cool. This was fun. I'm glad I got to chat with all of y'all. I learned a little bit and shared some some good perspectives.
I did too. I thought this was great. Thank you guys for having me.
It was
very nice.
Thank you so much, Yadi, Namati, Quentin, Shannon. Well, we all heard our pundits lift up the true importance of a national comprehensive paid family and medical leave program and affordable childcare, as well as so many other issues. And while the president didn't go into nearly as much depth as we had hoped, the Senate has the power to get this across the finish line right now. The House sent the first ever federal paid family and medical leave proposal in our nation's history in November. We need to get this passed. Our families cannot wait for paid leave. Sickness doesn't wait. We can't wait either. Together, we can ensure that everyone will have the time to care no matter where they live, who they love, or where they work. But we need each and every person active and fighting in and with working families and caregivers to do it. So please join us in taking action. Go to familyvaluesatwork.org and sign up as a supporter. We have urgent upcoming actions that you can take, and you'll learn about a lot of our work and the actions that you can take through the email alerts. In the meantime, we need you to get really loud on your social media, turn up your volume on your Twitter, especially, and tweet at your Senate member. Tell them that the president and working families are clear that the Senate has to do its job, and they need to pass a comprehensive care bill that includes paid family and medical leave and childcare. It's great to expand access to more jobs and things like that, but it's impossible for some folks to go to work if they don't have childcare. It just doesn't make sense. So we need our senators to act now. Go ahead and pull out your phone while you're live and send a tweet, and then join our email list to find out about upcoming actions, trainings, and learning opportunities so that we can fight for all families to win. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great night.